And we're live. Today we're talking about what is it? Metropolis, the original 1927 German movie that you can find pretty much anywhere because it is in public domain because it's that old. But we're also going to show you that if a movie's that like super old, it doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean it's bad. So go ahead and look it up on YouTube, watch it, and tell us what you think at some point. So go ahead, follow me on Twitter, and then
Yeah.
go ahead and talk to us about the movie there. Um, and then we're going to compare the original 1927 German film to the 2001 anime that it goes by the same name, Metropolis. Shall we get into it?
hmm Yeah,
Oh,
sure thing.
do you want to discuss
So
it first?
maybe
Kind of do like an
well, yeah.
analysis.
I kind of wanted to talk about some background information, kind of about the movies, because they're. I feel like the origins of these movies is kind of they're kind of interesting because when you really think about it, right? So the 2001 Metropolis is an adaptation of a manga, which is an adaptation of a movie that came out in 1927, which is an adaptation of a screenplay, which is by Thea von Harbo, which is an adaptation of a novel by Thea von Harbo. So it's like this is like such a fucking crazy line of just like I don't know, just adaptation. I guess it's like one of the most interesting things because it's an old German film adapted into a Japanese comic, adapted into a Japanese anime, and then it was later, like literally like a couple years ago, I think like 8 years ago, it was adapted into another movie, so another anime too. So I don't know, it's just a weird kind of relationship they have. But the 2001 anime was directed by Rintaro, and the 1927 Metropolis was directed by Fritz Lang, and I guess that's just like general information about it. I kind of
Yeah.
want to know your thoughts on.
So I'll go ahead and get in my thoughts. It was really hard for me to watch the original version again because it's a silent film and I'm so used to the audio aspect. But if you go through YouTube and look like through the different videos, they have tons with different music choices. So the one you recommended, you
Mhm.
sent me a link for originally, was one with like EDM music, and I was like, this is really really bad. And
What the fuck? I didn't even
it
watch
was
that one.
also still in German. I had one
Yeah,
that
yeah, I noticed that.
I found one that was in English and then also had better music. So um,
Mm. Well,
they
hopefully
had
you found like a good one.
I watched half of one with Tchaikovsky music, and then I changed it to one
Mm.
with like I forget. Someone like said Mercury music, but no, it wasn't Freddie Mercury because they tried to copyright it and stuff. It didn't make any sense. But the second one I watched was much better. I think if you look up Metropolis 1927, it's the first one you see, and it's got English
Hmm.
subtitles and everything. It's still silent, but hey, you win some, you lose some. So
Yeah. I mean, for me, this was the first movie I've seen that was this old. Like, I've never seen a movie that's this old. Most media I consume is this old. Like, I mean, I read some novels and stuff that are this old. Like your Lovecraft stuff is around that time, like the 20s, and some
Edgar
Edgar
Allan
Allan
Poe,
Poe. Well, Edgar Allan Poe's way before that, even
yeah,
in the 1800s, late 1800s. But yeah, so it's kind of like it's a time capsule. But it was such a unique viewing experience for me because it was like there were some things in this movie that you could tell like they were working as well as they could with their limitations, of not having sound and whatnot. And it was just so interesting. And it kind of when I was watching the movie, I was like, oh yeah, everyone in this movie is fucking dead now. Like almost certainly everyone in this movie is dead now. And that kind of made me sad because I was like, these performances are so amazing. It's like insane. But this movie was like it was kind of weird, like for me even, because there's like a little communication breakdown or misunderstanding, not in a bad way though. like because I liked it. I really liked this movie, but and I kind of the thing that really stuck out to me the most, I guess. I know I'm all over the place right now, but I just have lots of ideas about it. But um, the direction is something that I thought was really, really, really interesting. Um, I don't know. Did you kind of notice that too, Matt? Like there's a lot of like experimental things that were done in this movie that you see like much later in time,
What I noticed was the
like the
acting
eyes.
was when they act in these movies because they have no sound, they like overact. They make everything
Oh yeah, like a
exaggerated.
cartoon.
Yeah, they make everything super exaggerated to get like the point in the story across because they can't actually speak.
Mm.
And then when they have the
It's like
subtitles,
a play.
yeah, when they have the subtitles and like what they're saying dialogue wise up on the screen, it's like only the important stuff. So like only the very important stuff to the story that kind of pushes the story along. That's kind of
Mm.
what I got. Also, I think the makeup is pretty scary nowadays because it's black and white and they kind of
Yeah,
look like clowns. It's kind of weird.
yeah. Especially wait. Can you still hear me?
Yep, you're back.
Okay. Sorry. Um, Joe Friederson's. I'm probably saying that completely wrong, but his son, his makeup especially. I feel like they're trying to make him look like a 13-year-old boy
It looks
or
kind of like the Joker, is
something.
what I thought.
Yeah,
Because
it's
they
like he
kind
has
of
like white face
lipstick
paint,
sort of thing is like a little. His smile's just a little too big.
and his eyes are a little bit too wide, and his hair is a little bit
He's got
too,
that Joker. It's like got that old man hairline.
yeah. I mean, but you can tell like a good. He's like a nice, very selfless character, and so I feel like it kind of conflicts. I feel like they went a little bit too hard trying to make him look innocent, and it kind of made him look creepy. You know.
Okay.
Um,
Should we go
there
ahead
there was
before we get too far
yeah.
into it? Should
What
we
was
kind of explain the storyline? Do
I
kind of like
suppose we
a
should, yeah.
okay. So like a synopsis of the film is it's a sci-fi, and it's kind of like an Orson Welles movie or book where it's got a lot of deeper meanings in it, and there's just so much to look at and try to like find meaning in. But you're in a giant like city. What they call this Metropolis. It's giant. It's futuristic. I don't think they have flying cars because this was back in 1927 where cars were the future basically. Anyways, so
Oh,
they have a lot
yeah.
of cars
They
and a
have
lot of
planes though. They do have
highways.
like commercial planes.
They have a lot of
Like they have commercial
highways.
planes flying through these buildings too, and highways. Yes, highways that go into the sky,
Yeah.
kind of basically. And I think that's actually kind of
Hello. Did we lose him again? Yep.
okay. Wait, sorry. My internet's being especially weird today.
Yeah, it happens to
Um,
all of us. So.
but but what was I saying? Uh, oh yeah, so around that time, right? Like cities are being built. I don't know, like cities are popping up basically. It's like, you know what I'm saying? Like cities, I guess what I'm trying to say is cities weren't as big as they are now. So like the vision of the future is like that we're just going to keep going up and up and up, you know. And it's kind of an interesting concept because you see this everywhere in sci-fi. You see this in Star Wars too. You see it in
Coruscant. Coruscant's a city planet.
and Blade Runner. Right. And it's like I don't know, like the things that this movie does are very far reaching, and you can tell like the things that it has impacted are like immense, you know. Like it's probably cuz I looked into a lot into it after I watched it cuz I was like I feel like I've seen a lot of this stuff before. And there, you know, the metal woman, like the idol woman.
Yeah, the
Um
robotic woman. I think they call it the man, the robotic man.
the robotic man, yeah. Um I remember seeing that and I was like, you know, that looks a lot like C3PO. Like it just gives me vibes of C3PO. And then I like watched this video, this
It
Cinemaster
is
video afterwards, and it was like And it literally is what C-3PO is
It,
based on.
if you look at
And I
yeah
thought that was so
the
cool.
art that they made before Star Wars was basically of the robotic man from this film, and they kind of just
Hmm.
painted it gold and made it a little more, I think, a little more human. Because the robotic
Yeah.
man in this film does not. And you can tell it's just someone with like a big mask on, and the head is like too large for the body.
Yeah. And it looks very scary. I think it does a good job of making the it look terrifying.
I agree.
Um,
Um,
and you know another thing that this movie. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
um, so as we get into the story, you kind of realize that there's a hierarchy in the. I'm just trying to get a little more of the synopsis in before we get too in depth and go off topic without anyone having an understanding
Hmm.
of what it's about. Is it's is there's a hierarchy of like the people, the poor, stay poor, and they're just cogs in the machine that runs the city and like lets the people in the higher part of the hierarchy, like the more rich, the like the kings and the
The
queens of the
bureaucratic
yeah
higher upper class.
upper
Yeah.
class. That's the word. It lets them kind of just live their lives without really much of a worry, while all these unpaid slaves are uh, just working their butt off and dying without reason, without any like
Well,
they have a reason, but
they're not necessarily slaves, right? Like I mean, in a way they are, but the world that they live in is so two dimensional with its class relationship that these people are basically they basically have no other choice, or at least it's painted that way. So you have like people are working themselves to death, and there's a lot of really good analogies, especially towards the beginning, where the music, at least in the version I watched, the music syncs up with the people, like moving around as machines. Basically, it does a really good job of painting them as tools, and it's a common theme throughout this movie, this class disparity, but it's also like very optimistic, you know. But sorry, I didn't mean
yeah.
to like jump in and correct
No,
you
it's
there. I'm
fine.
just
We're talking about the movie anyway, so um,
yeah.
what is it? So as you kind of see all this come out, you realize that there's this person called is it John? John, you said it earlier. Uh,
I think it's Joe, like Joh. I don't know how it's
Joe
pronounced, but that's how it's spelled.
Joe. It's like Joe Anderson.
Frederson.
Joe Frederson, yeah, and Joe Frederson's
Yeah.
son, which the son is just named Joe Frederson's son.
Yeah.
So he has no
You know, Joe
specific name. He's
Frederson.
just Joe Frederson's son. Uh,
Yeah. At least that I know of.
so
But I'm pretty sure, yeah, I'm pretty sure he's just referred to as Joe Frederson.
they never have an actual name for him. It's just Joe Frederson the entire time. Joe Frederson's son. But Joe Frederson has lost connection to like what's happening down below with all these I'm just going to call them slaves because that's kind of what they are. It's
Well,
the
they're just
same
called
with
workers.
well, they're unpaid. They're unpaid.
Are you sure? Are you sure
Yeah,
they're
I
unpaid though?
watched a video about it real quick before we started.
Oh, okay.
Kind of remember a little more of it. But they're unpaid and they're kind of like what is it? The like when Hitler had those camps and stuff, they're kind of dressed up in like outfits.
Internment camps.
Yeah, they're kind of like in an internment camp where they're just cogs in the machine, just trying to like keep up with the city. And then
Hmm.
Joe Frederson doesn't know what's going on underneath, but Joe Frederson's son starts out in like a garden where everything's like amazing and where he's blind to the
Hmm.
truth. But then once he gets out, he finds like right when he gets out, he witnesses like destruction from all of this chaos and all the what is it? The like the
There's like a machine.
yeah, the city's like eating them, eating the
It's
slaves.
a heart. The city has a machine that kind of operates the whole city, which is a very like futuristic idea. Like even for its time, that's very advanced. But it's called the heart machine, and there have to be people operating it constantly and keeping the temperatures down of it like constantly. And basically, he Joe Fredrickson's son, he's in this garden. He sees this beautiful, beautiful woman who comes up to him, or not comes up to him. She comes up to the garden with these children to show them, and she says, "Well, the kids are like, what are we doing here?" Or something like that. And she's like, "Oh, well, we're here to see those who are brothers and sisters." And that's that's a huge theme of the story. But basically, this causes him to like have a piqued interest in the people of the lower part of the city, which are the workers, the basically the slaves, I guess. And so he goes down there, and I think it's really interesting also how like the upper. I mean, it's a very blatant example of symbolism, but the upper class is at the very top shelf, the very upper crust of society, and the workers are all kind of shuffled down into this like groundhog, like I don't even know how to explain it, like an underworld type place, which I mean you see like that happens in so many movies and stuff, but it's a really good metaphor, I think. But yeah, and then he sees this explosion, and this explosion happens at this plant, the heart, right, the heart machine, and this is like that scene is like one of my favorite like parts of the entire movie, because I noticed quickly at that scene that they were going to be using a lot of like imagery, a lot of symbolism, because like when the machine breaks down, you see this giant tomb. And at the top of the tomb it says Moloch, which I recognize that name from like Watchmen. I remember here. I know Moloch is like a character in Watchmen, and I know it's like an idea of like evil or something like that. So I kind of thought there was like a religious implication there with how these workers are, they're all walking into this tomb, which is representative of the heart, and they're all walking in there in mass and dying. And then Joe Fredrickson's son, who it represents like the mediator. He represents like the in between of the upper crust, like the upper class and the lower class working people. He sees them going into this tomb, and he's like freaking out. It's like making him have like a panic attack or something. I don't know. Uh,
Well, not just
it's
that.
just something I really liked about it.
In that scene, also the machine turns into like some sort of monster or beast and starts. And as they walk up the stairs, he sees groups of these slaves just walking up into the mouth of the beast and then getting swallowed and eaten by the machine,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of like
Yeah, that's what I meant to say.
yeah. I don't think is it could be considered a tomb. I don't know what Moloch means in German. It I I don't know what
I
it
know
exactly
Moloch is a
means.
bad thing. I'm pretty sure it's a bad thing, or something evil. I don't know exactly what it means either, though.
Let me just quickly. Moloch, a voracious giant.
Okay, so
So,
basically, yeah,
yeah.
very, very on the nose there with that.
Very. But as Joe Frederson's son sees this, he suddenly like runs off and goes to try to find his dad. And this is kind of it's not exactly the same compared to the 2001 anime, but there are very, very like big similarities that I found kind of funny because they didn't reference or like say that based on the movie from 1927 in the anime, just because I think
Mm.
that's pretty funny that they didn't do it because it's a pretty close representation, except instead of slaves they use robots. They use robots as the slaves, kind of.
I don't know. I disagree, actually. I think I disagree with you. I think that there are certainly callbacks to the 1927 movie, but I think the 2001 movie works its own kind of angle. I think it has like I think it has a set of new concepts within like a similar-ish world, you know? So like there are certain things that are worked like into the newer one. Like for example, like the newer one is a lot about fascism, and about like or fascism versus communism as like government, powers. But the old one isn't really about that whatsoever. It's more so just about class disparity in the upper class, the
Social
relationship
class.
between them, and yeah, and I mean it's about a lot of things, but um, I thought there were some really weird choices in this movie too, but that like in a good way, like in a really good experimental type of way.
Hmm.
Like there's this one scene that really stuck out to me that I remember thinking was like really ahead of its time. Um, was the eyes when all the up when the woman the what do I call
It's
her?
Maria.
It's the like the one not the okay yeah Maria but the robot version. So I'll just say
Robot
Robot Maria.
Maria. Or Robotic Man. You
Yeah.
can just say that.
So Robot Maria. Oh well yeah I guess that works too. But yeah she's dancing or she's dancing
Hmm.
sporadically like crazily, and all these like upper class people are like lusting over her and like freaking out over her, and it has this scene where it shows all of their eyes like cut onto one frame, like one screen. It has all their eyes, and I was like, wow, that is very cool. Like it's just such a good piece of like, I don't know, such a good shot.
On the stream, I have a picture of Maria's face, kind of during like the eyes. She's like in her robotic self. She has that like weird eye thing where she kind of like twitches her eyes and kind of does. It's a lot of
Oh
eyes.
yeah, yeah.
I have that on my.
They had to do a lot.
Yeah. Well, they're
They had to do a
silent.
lot
Sound
to
is
like
very
tell the
important.
difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like she has like eyeliner, and it's like so funny because she's like obviously like being she's like a caricature basically. She's like, I'm the evil one, and it's like
And then
I thought
she.
they're gonna do something interesting with like, oh go ahead.
Both movies quote the Babylon, like the fall of Babylon. I noticed that.
Oh yeah, the Tower of
That's a
Babel.
major thing. And then also, can I just say all the similarities real quick? So, first of all,
Sure.
Metropolis is a big city in both of them. It's surrounded around a big tower where like the head of the city lives. And then
Uh
as you
huh.
go down into the pits, you kind of see like the impoverished and the poor live down below, while the higher class citizens with more money live higher up. So yeah, that's a very big similarity. But also not just that, but the they both feature a mad scientist. They
That's true.
they
The
both
mad
feature.
scientists are very similar as well.
Yeah, they're pretty much exactly the same, except one I think the anime version is a robot, while the
He's like a
1927 one,
cyborg.
yeah, the 1927 one, he's a human with like some sort of weird leather glove. I don't like the leather glove because it looks a bit funny. It looks
I think
really
the leather
weird.
glove was meant to be robotic. I think it was meant to be a robotic arm,
Well, yeah,
but it
he
was just
cut
a
off
leather
his
glove. I mean,
hand
they're working
or
with what they
something.
had.
He mentions like in a
Yeah.
second while they're talking, while he's talking to Joe Frederson, he's like, "Yeah, I cut it off," and that's
Yeah.
while building the robot. Uh, and then also as
That
if
kind of reminds me of the.
uh,
Oh, sorry. No, sorry.
no,
I had a
I'm
different
just
idea. Never mind. Never mind.
both of them follow a robot and kind of a relationship between a robot and a human. Kind of.
Yeah.
Except the robot in the anime isn't supposed to be pure evil. It's just turned into like an evil thing. But the robotic man is just straight up evil
Yeah.
and meant to be evil. So,
Yeah. It's not very morally ambiguous, is it? Like the robot in the original. It's
no.
presented as something that's like
Technology is
mankind's greatest
bad.
destructive tool.
Technology
Yeah,
has
yeah, yeah.
creative.
And see, that's the thing I'm talking about. Is oh, go ahead.
No, I'm fine.
Sorry, I just talk so much. I have so much shit that I like. I make like instant connections, then I start fucking freaking out about because I'm gonna forget it. But um, the themes I think are similar in some ways, but very different in others because like we were saying in the old one, the the robot is definitely presented as something bad or to be feared, or at least that can be abused. But in the 2001 movie, the anime, it's very apparent that this robot is, well, first of all, robots in general are pretty heavily scrutinized and oppressed and treated very, very poorly. But Tima in particular is treated as like a symbol of innocence. She's even like symbolically compared to an angel at a couple points in the movie. So I don't know. I kind of think that is interesting. But I don't know. I think I like the moral ambiguity of the 2001
I
one
like I like the
more
2001 a
than the
lot
old
better
one.
than the original one, just because it's
Yeah.
definitely made for this time. While the original 1927 one, although it's a classic, uh, the themes aren't exactly the same as what we would feel today. Like they don't seem like
Hmm.
they're made for this time period, like the 21st century, where we our life revolves around
Hmm.
technology and the use of it.
Right. Well, I think some of them do still hold up. Like I think several of the themes of the original still hold up. Like at a just base human level, like the abuse of power and the and collectivism. I think this movie is very like anti-collectivist, which I agree with, and I think is still something that is relevant to this day. The idea of people and masses, you know, people functioning as a single unit. You know, I think that that's something that the movie talks about to great extent, which is still very relevant. And and I think it's really ambitious too. The old one is so fucking ambitious. Like for 1927, you got to imagine like the like for example, there's some concepts like the video call thing. Like when you look at that now, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, it's just a video call. But when you really think about it, it's like, holy shit, this is like 100 years ago. You know, like this is a fucking 100 years ago. Like telephones were not even practical at that point. At all. So there's just so many great ideas of this movie. And like personally, I really love it. I really love this movie for like just as a classic. I really loved it.
Yeah, I'm trying to
And
think of what I want to talk about it. I really enjoy it, but I just think that I don't I like the 2001 a little more better, just because it's a little more 21st century, uh, and
yeah.
I think it has a little more relevancy, but also like
Hmm.
the whole like robotics are taking jobs, and kind of like how the the poor people had jobs at one point, but then the robots came along and ended up taking and replacing the humans, so creating more
Right.
job losses. That's kind of what's happening today is
And
we're
it's also
doing more robots, using more robots to do
right.
just labor.
Right. There's less and less stuff that humans are needed for, which is, I mean, it's definitely a scary thing to think about. I think, but the one thing I like about this movie again is, or about the 2001 movie, I guess, is that it's morally ambiguous. It lets you come to your own decision. Like the humans, the people are out of work because of the robots, but the robots are also complex enough to the point where I feel like they have emotions. So it's like who's really to blame here? Who really deserves what's happening to them, or does anyone deserve what's happening to them? It kind of makes you think about things, and it also delves into like the idea of what it means to be human. I think a lot more. Like Metropolis is the original. I expected it to go into more of the idea of, oh, okay, so what is this going to be like something about machinery that's so advanced that it can replicate human behavior, which it did. It definitely did, but it didn't really go into the morality of it, which is something that the 2001 one again goes into to great detail. Um, and I'm personally of the belief that if you can create something, right? If we were to create something that was able to feel and think and have emotions much in the same way that we do, I think at that point it would be considered human, or at least sapient, something that should have rights. That's what I personally believe. So I don't know. That's just my takeaway from it,
Well,
though.
Tima
If
kind
you
of
interpreted this movie differently.
well some of the robots don't feel emotions the same way, but Tima in particular has like an AI artificial intelligence and can like learn and has emotions as they kind of discuss. That's how she's different. But I think some of the other robots do have emotions because they're like leading an uprising throughout the film, which I thought was going to be a big
Right.
thing throughout the movie was robots leading an
Mm.
uprising. But it barely gets touched, really. I think like you see a couple instances
Yeah.
where robots are turning on humans and then it like lasts for like a couple minutes and then humans come in like machine guns and just straight up blow them to bits.
Oh yeah. The other thing about that is that those scenes, the scenes where the robots start like freaking out and fucking going crazy on the humans, was directly caused by the humans'
Yeah.
mistakes because they fired that fucking laser beam into the sun. That fucking whatever it was, the gamma beam or whatever. But yeah. Oh, sorry. Pardon my cough. Um, yeah, I think some of the common criticisms of the 2001 movie is that it doesn't really follow through with its themes. And I can kind of see that a little bit. You know, has lots of ideas, has lots of different ideas and plot threads. It doesn't follow through on all of them. Some of them it does, like Tima's the main plot line with Tima and Kenichi, and that whole thing is followed through pretty well. Um, I think some plot lines fail flat though, like the communist uprising versus the fascist thing.
Yeah, they
It's
touch
touched
on a
on, but it's
lot
not
of
really expanded upon that much.
they touch on a lot of small points that you think are going to become like big themes in the movie, but they never come back to them. Such
Mm.
as the uprising, they really they just say, okay, so we're gonna do martial law, and then that'll just end that whole storyline. Or like they touch on the robots attacking humans, and then I think the last time you see that actually kind of happen is well, you see Tima kind of say, okay, I'm gonna destroy all humans and leave only 30% of them alive. She says that,
Mm.
and then kind of turns on the humans, but she's not a big part of the big robotic revolution. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, Tima's thing, Tima's whole thing, her whole motivation for doing that, at least to my understanding, is based on her realizing that she is not human, basically.
yeah, she's a
And,
robot.
but the thing is that, yeah, the realization that she's a robot is it really fucked with her. But I think the fact that it impacted her that much, like to have an existential crisis like that, I don't know. That's a very human feeling, I think.
Hmm.
I
So
mean, some of my favorite scenes in the movie. Sorry if I'm talking too much. This just
oh,
reminded me of a
it's
different
okay.
idea. But the some of my favorite scenes in the movie are when Kenichi and Tima are just talking to each other. You know, and it's playing this like this soft, this very intimate jazz music, and it's just making you. I don't know. It just for me those moments really shined. They really make you feel like something magical is going on here. You know?
I really like the jazz music actually. I thought that was better than the original Tchaikovsky music that they had. I think in the original one, I think they had
Mm.
Tchaikovsky. Um, I think it just added a little more. It made it feel like it took place in the 1920s, which I think might have been a
Yeah.
callback to the original one. I just kept thinking about that
Mm-hmm.
because it's definitely like 1920s jazz music is what they're playing throughout the film. I really enjoyed that. The music I think in the 2001 version is pretty good. I do not like though
It's just so fitting.
at the end they have that whole they literally make a music video out of the ending. Like right
Uh,
when everything's exploding, they have that song start playing.
oh, you don't like that? You
I
don't like
do
that
not
part?
like that. I do not like that.
Bruh. No, it's perfect. That's a perfect music choice. Think about it. Okay. I'm not trying to tell you to change your mind actually, but hear me out, okay? Hear me out at least. Okay? So, it's like at that moment, right? Tima is Tima has basically decided whatever, like she's decided to do this thing, right? And everything starts falling apart, right? So you have this amazingly kind of destructive, kind of somber moment, right? Like it's this moment where it's like, oh, this is kind of sad. Like everything is falling apart, you know. And Tima's character has kind of been, she's been, her character arc is tragic, and so that's kind of the feeling that is going through my head at least. So when the music plays, it's like this kind of sweet, somber music about loving someone and letting them go. And it's like, and it plays, oh, it's just such a calm thing that's playing over this really extravagant, really destructive moment. And it's just, for me personally, it made me feel like, I don't know, it just felt like the perfect music choice. It felt like it accompanied it so well. Like, it's something smooth happening, it's something extravagant is happening, and it contrasts it, in my opinion, very well.
I understand how someone could feel that way. I'm just not used to anime and stuff in particular, and I know that with anime they like to pick those big songs, use a lot like wordage and stuff, while American cinema likes to use like more like Hans Zimmer-esque music, where it's more like sympathy. So what is it? Symphony music.
Symphonic.
Yeah, symphonic music. Instead of to create emotion that way instead of using music with lyrics. I don't like music with lyrics usually being in movies. I, I just don't know why,
Mm-hmm.
but I just tend to feel that
I
way.
feel like I know what you mean. I kind of don't either in a way, but I feel like in this particular case it works very well because once again, it's a jazzy, you know, somber song. It fits so well within the theme of the movie, in my opinion, right? Because it's like, you know, within each genre of music, you have like subgenres and different types of music, and I don't know the music choice. Sorry, I have to burp. The music choice in this movie makes the world feel very like lived in. You know,
Hmm.
I feel like the world is very well fleshed out. I don't know. I like so much about this movie, and I think it's really underrated. Like the 2001 one, I think is really underrated. And of course, the 1927 one is so popular. Like it's incredibly popular.
It's one of those sci-fi
Um,
movies that you have to watch. Hmm.
yeah,
That's kind of just how it is.
definitely a must watch. I would say, like just to see where everything has come from until now, because it's inspired so much. Um, I really wanted to read the original comic by Osamu Tezuka. Um, Not the original comic; it's an adaptation of the movie. But um, Osamu Tezuka is like one of the best manga artists ever, in my opinion. Um, he's not as popular now as he was in the '80s, but he's like single-handedly responsible for the popularization of anime and manga, like in general, not just in America or Japan, just in general everywhere. He's considered to be like the father of the entire medium. So his ideas, I think his ideas permeate very well into this movie. Even though Rintaro, this is a fun fact, I guess. The guy who directed this movie, when Osamu Tezuka was still alive, he did not want Rintaro to make this movie. Like he did not want him to make this movie at all, and he made it very clear. But he made the movie anyway after he died. Um, I don't know, kind of an interesting little tidbit.
Why?
And
Why
that
didn't?
brings me.
Why didn't he
Oh, go ahead.
want a movie? What did he think it would like hurt his manga?
Uh, I don't know why he didn't want a movie. He's notoriously a very like fickle guy. Like he's very very picky about certain things. Like um, it's hard. It's really hard to explain. I'm sure I could find it if I looked into it. But for example, like to give you an insight, I guess, into the kind of stuff that Osamu Tezuka did, right? Like he had this period in the 70s, late 70s, or pretty much all of the 70s and the 80s, where he just made really dark comics for adults. And he was primarily known for making stuff for kids. Like he invented Astro Boy. He invented all, you know,
That's
all this
something
stuff that's for children.
I did want to touch on. I didn't know uh, the people that animated like Astro Boy and stuff like that. Did they animate this movie? Because I think the eyes and everything look a
Um,
lot like Astro Boy.
well, there's a reason for that actually, and I was just about to get into that. All the characters all the character designs in this movie are based off of Osamu Tezuka's art style. So the reason why it looks like that is because that's the way his characters are known for being very similar looking. They you know how Disney characters like they're very simple and you could see them in any different story and you'd recognize them and they're kind of interchangeable.
Yeah,
That's kind of the Osamu Tezuka's thing. So that's why the character designs look that way. But did you like them? Did you like the character designs?
I like the art. Yeah, I like the art in this one. In the 2001
Mm-hmm.
version. I just really all I could think about though kind of was like these guys look like Astro Boy, like look crazy close.
Yeah.
And yeah, I do want to touch on the character of Roke or Rock. I
Oh,
think they
Rock. Yeah.
pronounce it Roke, but in I think the movie, but it's Rock. I really hate that character. I
Did
really
you
hate
watch
Rock.
the sub or dub?
I watched the dub.
Oh, I hate Rock too.
Oh no, I didn't watch the dub.
Okay. Okay.
Did I watch
Okay.
the
You
dub?
watched the dub. All right.
Did I?
Were they speaking English?
No,
Were they speaking English or
they were
were you
speaking
reading?
Japanese. I was reading. It was subbed. Um.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, I was reading. I was reading it. I wasn't. Yeah, Japanese. They were talking it. They pronounced rock as like roke or something. That's all I could. Yeah.
Roko.
Yeah.
Like that or something.
Yeah.
It's yeah. That's just the Japanese pronunciation of it.
Yeah. But I didn't like his character, although he is like one of the major people like pushing the story along,
Hmm.
and he's the whole reason why Tima kind of ends up where she does at the end.
Yeah.
But I feel like
Rock is very hateable.
yeah, he's just that one.
He's
He's like
definitely very hateable.
he's the adopted child that's just like, I want to be loved. If you make this robot, you're gonna love her more than me. It's kind of what he is.
Right.
I don't think he really
He
cared
has like
about
an
the city.
insane jealousy.
I don't think he really cared
No,
about the city.
definitely not.
He just made that a reason.
He was using his position. He's just using his position as a Marduk. Was it in your translation? Was it the Marduk or the Malduks?
For who?
Like the fascist party,
Oh,
the fascist party people.
I don't know. I'm trying to remember what it was.
'Cause
Maybe Marduk or something. It was. It seemed like it was more
maybe.
darker.
See, I
sounding.
watched the dub this time around. I
Oh,
watched the dub this time around, and yeah, and I kind of regretted it, honestly, a little bit because I've seen this movie like 4 times, and I watched the dub and I was kind of like, man, some of these lines are not delivered the best, but it's kind of different with sub because it's like the animations are made to fit around what exactly they're saying in Japanese, so it makes more sense. Um, but I don't know, man. In my opinion, I think that the 2001 movie is like a lot better than the 1927 one.
same. Although
I'm sure that's like I'm sure that would piss a lot of people off if they heard that.
uh, I I did like the anime a lot better than the original one. I like the art style in it. I do like a lot of those older movies. I really enjoyed those original Universal monster movies that came out around I think the 1930s. So like
Mm-hmm.
Frankenstein, Dracula, uh, the Wolfman. I love a lot of those films, but this one I didn't enjoy as much as I would like the Frankenstein movies and stuff. And I think
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed the 2001 version a lot more. I think the storyline I think is kind of better, even though there are some people I
Mm-hmm.
really don't like in it, such as Rock, but he's a major part of it. I do think that if they showed blood a little more, like especially when the uncle gets shot, I think that blood, if they
Mm-hmm.
showed some blood in that snow area, like while it's snowing, I think that would have been a much better scene, because I think there are instances where it's important to show blood, and it'll just make it look a little more artistic and more dramatic, especially when
Better.
well, the whole point of that kind of is like Kenichi is like getting super angry because he thinks his uncle is dead, but he's not,
Yeah.
because I just think if they showed blood right then, but later in the movie for some reason they never show blood in the film until I think Rock or Roke, he his hands are bloody for some at some point in the movie. I forget. It's near the end after he gets shot. Uh, he's got like some sort of blood on his hands. That's the only time you actually see blood. And then they make the robots oil and like the liquids in the robots. They make that look like blood too. So, but they never
Mm.
show blood from
Well,
humans, except in that instance.
I think they're trying to I think they're trying to avoid a R rating because this movie's rated PG-13, and I feel like if they showed blood for every instance that there should be, then they would get an R rating, and I think that's why they didn't show any blood. But yeah, there's straight up like the uncle, who I don't like the uncle. Okay, I think the uncle might be my least favorite character.
Why?
Like I don't hate him as a person because he's so like irresponsible. He's like the worst uncle ever. Of course, I understand that that's probably just a thing, like his character thing. So I don't think he's a bad character necessarily.
Well, how old is
But
Kenichi
it's
supposed to
just
be? Is he like?
he's probably like he's probably like a 12-year-old.
Huh.
I think at least. I figured he was like 12 years. He was young. And the uncle, he was just like his son, like his not his son, his nephew got like fucking like he got I almost said adopted. He got abducted. He got abducted to the lower fucking parts of the city, and this uncle's just over here. It's like fucking eating an ice cream cone with some random ass fucking robot, like not giving a shit. I don't know. I thought that was kind of weird. And then at
Yeah.
the end of the movie, he just leaves him there. He just leaves Kenichi there. He fucking
It's like,
flies off on
okay,
a plane and leaves
you
his
can
ass
stay.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. I now that you say that, yeah, I do think he's not a great parental figure. But I think the main reason he's there is to kind of push the story into the direction of the mad scientist. Because if he wasn't there, and Kenichi
Hmm.
just arrived in the city, uh, what would the reason be for him to actually run into Tima? I think he's just important the
Right.
storyline then, and then also he kind of resurrects Tima in the end. He's the one that brings her back to life after Roke tries to
Yeah.
kill her.
That scene was cool. Um,
I like
I think the scene where he like plugs her in.
I like the scene where he kind of Roke is trying to like cut her open, cut the robot open to see if what her insides are. And then as he does it, like all of a sudden the lights shut out and you see red, blue, and as he's getting beat up. I really hate Rogue.
Oh yeah, he's getting the shit beat out of him.
I really hate Rogue.
Yeah, it was good to see him lose.
Yeah.
Definitely. Um, man, he okay. So there, like the characters that I really like, the thing I really liked the most, I think, was just Tima. Really, like Tima for me is like the best part of this movie, like because she represents this idea of like innocence, of like, and it's like she's very human and it's almost manipulative in a way because it makes you really be like, okay, this is a person. It makes you feel like that. But that scene where like the oil starts coming out of her eyes, like tears. I thought that was fantastic. I thought that was a fantastic like visual, That was so striking. Like that is what sticks with me when I think of this movie is that particular part. That scene, the scene with the scene with Tima sitting on the balcony above the, lower part of the city, and the light shines down on her. And do you remember this scene? Like the
Yeah.
light shines down on her. She's sitting down, and there's like a dove that sits on her shoulder, and it looks like a wing, And that's what I was talking about also when she's kind of shown as an angel, and that once again kind of ties back into the religious symbolism of it, And that's something that the 1927 movie did that I also kind of liked or thought was interesting. was it uses religion as kind of an escape basically for these people, like it's their hope, it's representative of hope, so it doesn't necessarily have to be religion, it could be anything, but for them their religion is their hope, and I don't know, it does a lot to humanize these people, I think, to
Well,
show
in the
that they have their own
1920s,
system of beliefs.
in the 1927 version, I think the whole story kind of revolves around the like faith and that's kind of why, well, that's the whole point they create Maria, is to kind of ruin the faith that the poor and the slaves have. But the slaves, if you take away that faith, I don't think the slaves are going to work, because that's kind of the reason why they
Mm-hmm.
work so hard and they work those
Right.
long hours, is because they believe that they're doing good, while they're like working at these machines and stuff, because they have faith in it. They have faith that they're doing the right thing. Um, that's something the 2001 version does not really touch on, is faith at all. It does reference like the Tower of Babel, like the first one does, but it doesn't make the story revolve around having faith. While the original one talks about the seven deadly sins and how this robotic man is all seven of them, and it just like is
Mm-hmm.
creating all these sins. Um, yeah, the 2001 doesn't have like touch too much on faith. It touches more on like
Mm-hmm.
the robots being more oppressed than by humans and stuff, and that's
And it Yeah, definitely. The original is definitely more about faith. And I'm pretty sure the 2001 movie was a pretty sure it was a flop. Like I'm pretty sure it was a box office flop. Uh, I think it had a huge budget. I mean, it was written by sorry, one second. It was written by or not written, but the screenplay was done by Katsuhiro Otomo, who wrote Akira, which is like one of the most successful and influential Japanese movies of all time. So I don't know, but what I do like about both of these movies is how optimistic they are. They're not like they're very productive movies because for example, at the end of the 1927 movie, you have the idea of this thing that's constantly reiterated throughout the movie is the head and the hands and the mediator. It's kind of like the people who are the head is like the people who are like manipulating or the head is like the people who are, I guess,
the higher class.
control, right? And then
Yeah,
the higher class, that whole thing. And then the hands are the workers, the most people, and then the mediators, like
is
the
the
between.
body. It's kind of like the
I kind of
body.
disagree.
It's connecting
Yeah,
both.
yeah, and it does a good job of. I think the message of it is good, of like, we need to work together. We need to kind of take the strengths. We need to play to each other's strengths in regards to, the many versus the few, because it's always easy to make someone out to be the enemy when we're really all related. We're all brothers and sisters and family. I agree with that idea, but I also don't really agree with the method that they use to describe it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's kind of like, oh, we all need to get along, really. And it's like, well, realistically, you know,
That's not going to happen.
it's a lot more complex than that. Yeah, yeah. It's kind of unrealistic to just expect everyone to get along, um, just like that. I mean, it'd be amazing if it was, and I'm not saying it doesn't provide any examples of good examples of that, happening, but mainly, it just seems kind of like the upper class is just fucking on everybody, in the working class. But they also, it also does kind of depict the evil of people in masses as well. It does a good job of depicting chaos because once everything goes to shit, and Robot Maria or the Robot Man is like really does a good job of manipulating both of them to bring out their worst aspects. And so I feel like it was kind of subtle in that way because you really see the development of it does this thing where it shows like a shit ton of people. It does these camera shots where there's a bunch of people, like people in massive groups, like like doing this shit that is like so insane, like to the point where these people forget that their children are down there, that their children need them. It's a good metaphor, I think, for the way people are in groups, in mass. Everyone is an individual, but together people are capable of great evil and also great good. But people are capable of really, kind of terrifying things. And I feel like it did a really good job of focusing on that.
Yeah. What is it? In the 2001 version, it does end kind of optimistically. Whereas they're kind of rebuilding the city in a new light. Like as the city
Mm-hmm.
crumbles, they're gonna rebuild it, and Kenichi's gonna help. But also that Tima still has. Is she still alive, or what? The radio, is that kind of like her voice box or like her mind?
I think I think it's meant to be like Tima is still alive in a way. You know, it's meant to be like maybe Tima might not be here as we know her, but she's still here in a way. And that's kind of like the heart too. You see how Kenichi has her heart, and then you see the box, and like and it's her talking. So I think it's kind of like an idea, a little bit of a religious idea, I guess, of like reincarnation. I think is a little, you know what I'm saying? Like the world is born anew, and Tima is kind of a back in a way, you know. And so I think it's kind of like the idea of like a cycle. I think that's what it's playing off of. Man, what was I gonna say about? Oh, Tima's last words, I think, are really interesting in that scene, because remember when she hooks up to the chair, right, and everything's going crazy, and it's like the tower's falling apart, the ziggurat's falling apart, right, and she like attacks Kenichi, but the moment when she falls, when she's dangling from that wire, and she's about to fall, and she looks up at Kenichi, and she says, she looks up at him, and he's talking to her, and she says, "Who am I?" It's a little bit depressing at surface value, but when you really think about it, it's like that is Tima breaking, not necessarily breaking free, but it's her kind of subverting the coding, or subverting the destructive thing that just happened, basically, because it's her thinking for herself. It's her having her own idea about her own identity in that moment. Unfortunately, right before she dies. And that's the kind of thing I think is really tragic about Tima. I don't know. I find Tima to be a really tragic, sad character, I think.
Yeah, her questioning her reality, kind of, and like whether she's a robot the entire movie. Literally every time she meets someone, she always asks, "Am I a robot?" And they just lie. They lie straight to her face. They say, "Well, that's difficult. You're a human. You're a human." They just kind of say that.
Yeah.
And then
You're
when
different.
she's the only person that
Yeah,
kind
they
of
tell her she's different.
the person that tells her the truth is her quote unquote father, because it's
Yeah.
the
Duke Red.
Duke Red. Yeah, I I,
Mm.
I do not understand his name, but I kind of like the name Duke Red. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's pretty interesting.
It's kind of a cool name.
He's also got a ginormous nose. His nose is the
Yes,
size
he has
of
like
his head.
fucking. It's fucking huge. Like I think that's meant to make him look like a douchebag or like a bird. I think like some kind of predatory bird. I think that's the point of that design thing.
I thought Pinocchio
I
when
don't
I
know.
saw it.
I mean, could be both. I don't know. It's a nice little detail though. He definitely looks alien though. Like if this was in any kind of other thing, even in an animated series, it'd be like this is like a fucking this is a creature from another world. Like he has like greenish skin and like white shaped like weird hair and like a beak, and you're like, all right, this wouldn't be a human. But in this movie, he is. So
Kind of like an eagle. You think about
yeah,
it?
a
Kind of
little
like
bit,
a bald
a little
eagle.
bit.
The
Hmm.
white hair, big snoz. Uh, but yeah, the only person that kind of tells Tima what she actually is Duke Red. And then at that
Hmm.
realization, she kind of has like she kind of feels broken. She feels lost.
Yeah. She has an existential crisis, I think. Um, and that part really got to me, you know, because like I've had a problem with that. I mean, everybody, of course, everyone thinks about this. Everyone has a problem with this, you know. It's like everyone questions the nature of their existence at some point. And so I kind of felt like, I don't know, Tima kind of represents like the corruption of innocence and like the law of something beautiful, I think. And I don't know. I think I see a little bit of myself as a kid in Tima, and all kids really in Tima. That kind of innocent, nature, I guess. Um, I know I've said that over and over again, but I don't know. It's just that's what really works for me in this movie. But well, do you want to get on to rating them or like
Uh,
you know?
well, let's first. I think we both agree that I enjoyed the 2001 version a lot more than the original 1927 version, but they're very different
Mm,
from each other. The storylines are very different. The themes are pretty different. There are some similar themes, but overall they're very different movies with the same title.
yeah, yeah. They're different stories, completely different stories, just with some similarities. Um, I'm trying to think, like, trying to think about. Oh, there is one more thing I wanted to mention actually. That scene where Rock is antagonizing Tima, and he's telling her, oh, you're just a creation. You're just, you're not real. And then he's like, who's your father? And she goes, my father, Kenichi. Kenichi is my father. And you're like, I don't know, it's just little details like that, Or the trash, the fucking trash robot. Rest in peace, that guy. Like for fucking. Remember the trash robot, the one that fucking Rock killed,
It's Fifi.
that came back at the end. Fifi, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Fifi
then they
didn't
came back.
die.
They actually came back. It died. Yeah, it
Yeah, it
died.
died,
Remember?
but then it came back, so it didn't truly die.
It did come
Unless
back.
that type of robot is called Fifi, and that's just a version of the robot. But that I don't think that's
Hmm.
what happened because the robot definitely recognizes him at the end.
Yeah.
So
Well, that kind of brings it to another thing, also though. The detective. The detective
rest in peace,
robot.
detective.
Yeah, but I mean,
DRM
is
something.
it just me or it's DRM some random numbers? But is it just me or was he kind of pointless? Like, is he the most pointless character in the whole story?
Absolutely. I think when the fire happens, he doesn't do anything. He just watches from a distance as Kenichi and his uncle run into the flames to go
Yeah,
find the person, and then he just follows them around. The only point where he kind
and then
of
he dies.
the only point where he kind of has a use is when he goes up to uh, the humans as they start to have their little like civil war. Um,
Right.
that's the only point he does because he kind of questions them and like actually makes them think for a moment, but their bullheadedness kind of takes over and then they just shoot him.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I mean, I liked him. I liked the guy. I liked him. It's just that he didn't go anywhere really. He just kind of like it's kind of like they just picked up this random ass robot, right? And then he walked around with them for a little bit, and then he saw the best part of the movie, which is the part where the fucking little tiny robot things come, they're singing or whatever, and then they come down and put out the fire. That's like my favorite scene.
That was a pretty
Like,
good one.
I fucking love. It was pretty. It was like so cute. Like it's just like these fucking a bunch of little tiny robots that form together to make one giant robot that shoots fucking water. That was like little things like that, especially when it comes to like robot designs, are what really I really like about this movie because it makes it feel lived in. You have all these really unique robots like that have specific, like oddly specific functions that are like at the same time they feel very animated and like cartoonish and unrealistic, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's just
Yeah.
it's so cool.
What I do have a problem with though is when it just randomly starts snowing. I
Mm.
don't think that's supposed to be
Like, what do you mean?
snow. You know how in movies they'll like when it's dramatic, it's just like let's add snow on top of it. Like Dark Knight
Is that a
Rises does it.
thing?
Dark Knight Rises does it.
Is
As
that
the city gets taken over by
what?
Bane, it just starts snowing at random points, and then it suddenly just becomes winter in the matter of like hours. And there's no point to it. I think that
Oh.
actually it would have been better if they changed that snow to like ash, as if the city's on fire. But ash does not look
Or
white.
rain.
Yeah, rain would have been
No.
better. I just don't think
Rain would have been
snow
better,
was
I
the way to
think.
go with it. Especially because they didn't even use blood in that one scene. I know I'm all over the blood. I'm not Quentin Tarantino though. I just think that that scene would have made it more dramatic if the uncle had been shot and then he was bleeding instead, or just
Right.
I just think
Well, he
that would
was
have been.
injured beforehand, right?
Was he?
Like he was injured and then shot. Yeah, he was injured and then he was shot, right? And then but it seemed like he didn't get shot at all because he still had the same thing around his injury, the same bandage. So I was kind of wondering. I was like, did this motherfucker get shot or not? Like why? And he got after he got the injury and after he got
He
shot
gets up
is when he
again.
beat up Rock.
He also gets up again
Yeah,
after
and
he
he's
gets
fine.
shot, and then he falls down all dramatically.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was pretty okay. That was pretty funny, honestly. That was a little bit
I
humorous.
did find it. I because
But
you immediately expect him to be dead, but no, he just keeps coming back somehow.
hmm I also like how whenever he yells, this is just a really specific thing that I noticed. And like I said, the details in this movie are all over the fucking place, but this is such a specific thing I think very few people would probably point out. But whenever well they might point out the thing, but they might not make the connection. But whenever Uncle whenever he yells, whenever he has a moment of exclamation, his little hat kind of dings and rings around like a bell. It pops off his head a little bit and dings and rings around. And that in itself is a callback to Osamu Tezuka's art style because it's very cartoonish. And so I saw that and I was like, wow, that's something I didn't even notice. I don't know. I personally think this is a movie that the more you watch it, the more appreciation you get for it because you'll always notice new things about it. And that's how it is with a lot of anime, is that there's a lot of like some people think that subtlety is lost on anime. And I really disagree because yeah, like I've heard people say that, and I really don't think that's the case. You know, it's just a matter of who is working on it. Who's putting these details in there. And this is one of those movies that you can watch it over and over again and find new details and new little things that you never noticed. I think. Yeah.
Do you want to go ahead and rate it, and
So
then
yeah, I kind of want to rate it, and I kind of want to talk about some other things too,
let's
if you're
let's.
okay with that.
Do you want to talk about the things before we rate it and finish with the rating, or?
Oh no no, I meant unrelated to this movie or
Oh,
vaguely
okay,
related to this movie.
okay.
But
Let's go with the
you want to go first for the
1927.
original Metropolis?
Yeah. So I'm gonna give the original
Okay.
one a 7.
Okay. All right.
And
So
I,
7 for what? Like on what basis are we going here?
I think the cinematography is really good, and I think for that time period, some of the effects are like amazing. Like like at the beginning when Joe Frederson's son comes out, and then sees the big beast as it like turns into a monster in front of his eyes. I think that effect
Mm-hmm.
is like really good for that time period. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
effects have been made like that, but literally what they do is like overlap different film, and as it like they overlap a film where it's just the monster, the beast, and then they put that right over top of the other film, and then kind of mix it. And then I also like
Mm-hmm.
it definitely reminds me a lot of like Frankenstein. The whole storyline with the
Mm-hmm.
mad scientist is basically a Frankenstein ripoff, but I I do really enjoy it. The mad scientist is a lot more scary in the original one with his leather glove. I think overall the
Mm-hmm.
first one holds up to a point, but it's it's a little dated. But overall it's a really good movie. It's worth a watch. It's definitely one of those. If you want to call yourself a movie buff, you have to watch it. It's just one of those
Yeah,
movies. So
it's a must watch. That's an absolute must watch. Um, yeah, I think I agree with you from on most of that. Like you said, like for me, so the pros for this movie for me are, like you said, great cinematography, great direction, um, pretty well written characters, and amazing themes that are mostly still relevant to this day. Um, really experimental and really ambitious, especially for the time. Like way ahead of its time, decades ahead of its time. Um, it's if this movie, um, well, I guess this is going on to the cons. Um, if this movie was, oh shit, what was I gonna say? Fuck, no, I can't forget. No, I can't forget what I was gonna say. Oh god, I was gonna say if this movie comes out today, or if this movie came out today, something. No, I remember what it was. If this movie kept the momentum that it had in the first like half or the first third, if it kept the momentum it had in the first third, I think I would have given it like a crazily high score. But I think it kind of meanders a little bit, you know?
I definitely
I think it's
agree.
a little bit. I think it's, yeah, it's unnecessarily long, in my opinion. I think it's unnecessarily long. There are some scenes that could be cut out, and there are some scenes that are cut out just because of the. It's so old that it's lost, literally lost entire scenes. Um, but it's still a pretty coherent movie. I think I'm gonna have to agree with you on this one on a 7 out of 10. Um, just for its importance and impact, I'm gonna have to give it a 7 out of 10. And I know it's weird that we agree once again on the score, but I swear to God, it's a coincidence. I decided this before we even started today that I would give it a 7 out of 10. So yeah, that's that one.
I definitely
So
think that if you were to put this movie out in theaters today against the Metropolis 2001, I think more people would go for the 2001 version than the original. It's just how we work
mhm,
in the world today. We like the sounds, we like color, we like all of these
we're biased.
things. Yeah, we're somewhat biased. Now, if you took me back to 1927 and this was what I had, I would probably watch it and I would probably love it, enjoy it. But it's just today with all the stuff we have nowadays. I do think this movie is definitely ahead of its time, and
Mhm.
it's well shot, well done. Especially because I don't know how many German films I've seen, but it's surprising that a German film like this, because usually foreign films don't get enough attention as they do, but this one has
Mhm.
tons of attention and it's inspired so many directors. It's inspired George Lucas for Star Wars. It's inspired so many things. It's inspired animes, uh, Blade Runner,
Definitely. Oh, it's
all
definitely
over the
inspired animes.
place.
But yeah, Blade Runner.
I definitely think
Um,
that
just sci-fi.
it's left its
Sci-fi
footprint.
in general. It's yeah, definitely. It's left a massive footprint. Just sci-fi in general is like so much is it even influenced like The Matrix. Like this is shit like this I feel like this is like one of those movies that while I'm it might not hold up as well today, it's like it's almost like a Shakespeare thing, you know? It's like so classic, so important, so revolutionary that it just has to, you know what I'm saying? Like it's just it's so impactful. I don't know. Sorry, I didn't mean to steal your thunder there.
Yeah, I'm just really happy we got to talk about it and give it some light. And it's
Mhm.
definitely it's a movie that you can watch anywhere because it's public domain, and I definitely recommend it. I'd say skip a little bit of the
Mhm.
center just because it kind of just meanders around in the center around the storyline. Uh,
Yeah.
but I think it. Oh, I did want to talk about. It reminds me of the movie Spartacus. Have you ever seen Spartacus?
Hmm.
Spartacus.
No, but I've been meaning to watch it.
It's a story about I think I think he's Hebrew. He's Jewish, and Hebrews at that time period were kind of oppressed and they were kind of slaves. And then
Further persecuted.
he ends up turning into a gladiator and then learns how to fight and lead and then he goes back to being a slave, and then he kind of pushes those slaves to revolt and turn against the higher class like soldiers, the Roman soldiers, and like leads a full on war against them. I think that
Mm-hmm.
this movie kind of also not just is a big film in terms of sci-fi, but it could inspire stuff like Braveheart. You could connect it to Braveheart. You could connect it to like Spartacus. You could connect it to like tons of these movies about like uh, people being oppressed and then turning on their oppressors. Uh, I think
Mm-hmm.
it's you could connect this film to so many things, and I feel like it's definitely uh, it needs to it's I don't know, a film that needs to stay important, and I don't know how I want to say that, but I think it's definitely
It's
left
good
its
to keep.
footprint. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, it's good to keep movies. It's good to keep movies, like especially old movies, in the spotlight, or at least have them remembered. Because this is film history. This is a part of human history. It's like we should. This isn't something that we should ever have to lose. And there are certain aspects of this movie that are timeless. I think, at least,
It's
because I believe
created
in
our
that. I believe
present
that there's art.
it's created our present day culture.
Yeah, yeah, and shit, wasn't this? I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Th- this movie, I'm pretty sure was maybe. Okay, you're completely wrong, but there's something that happened with Fritz Lang in this movie in Germany, like around World War II, if I remember correctly. Because I don't know, there's some like Nazi controversy that happened, like about not necessarily this movie, but I don't remember, man. Okay, I shouldn't have even brought it up because I don't really know what I'm talking about. But
I,
I
I
probably
didn't
should have just looked into
research.
it
I didn't
ahead of
research
time.
this movie's historical significance too much, though. So I don't know if it did.
Well,
It could have been because it's in between 19. It's in between World War and World War Two, and it's a German-made film. That kind of
mhm.
is a little. It definitely has significance there, but I don't want to say anything. I don't want to talk out of my ass. So it may
Yeah,
have importance there. So
I'm trying to think, because okay, so I searched up was Metropolis banned in Germany in World War II, and the first thing that pops up is this article, and it says the Nazi propagandist who was a fan of Lang's previous work in Metropolis had been less than impressed with Lang's most recent work, The Testament of Dr. Mabius. He viewed it as being a rebellious film and thus banned it for daring to suggest that the leader is not always right. So, I don't know if that's talking about Metropolis or the other movie,
I
but
was talking
this is.
about the
I'm
other
sorry,
film,
I kind of got off
but
topic.
I
Yeah, it probably is.
it's
Yeah.
it's surprising that he would like Metropolis though, because it's still around the same premise, but it's more like the
Mm-hmm.
ending is more like happy-go-lucky. It's more like, hey, we can all get
Yeah.
along and we can all understand each other. But I think
Yeah, it's a little bit. Well, I could see how it being interpreted as like I could see someone like obviously like an evil fucking Nazi higher up being like, oh, see, this movie is an example of why you should listen to your superiors because when you do, everybody gets along. I
yeah,
could see someone manipulating that. That's kind of what I was talking about when I said I don't really like the way it's explained. But well, anyway, we should okay. So I think we should move on to the
rating for
rating the
2001.
anime.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll go. You,
2001: A
you
Space
go ahead
Odyssey.
and start this one. You've watched this one before me, so I want to get your
Okay.
ideas. I don't think we're
So
gonna
I
agree
feel
though.
like my no, we probably won't agree. We're probably gonna have completely different ideas, but um, I think this movie. I mean, I've pretty much already said everything that I can say about it. Um, I I'm gonna give it.
Did you cut out?
Oh wait, oh, can you hear me? I
Yeah,
think I might have cut out for a second. Can you hear
right
me?
when you gave your
Okay.
rating.
So, oh shit. I never actually got to say it. I think I'm wavering between an 8 and a 9. I'm wavering in between.
Why?
Because I think it's a 9 for enjoyment, but I think not following through on your plot threads is a pretty big flaw. So I think it's good on pretty much every aspect, except for that one thing of not really following through on some of its plot lines. So I guess I'll settle for like an 8.7.
That's pretty funny, because I was gonna give it an 8.5, but I don't think. I think this film, it's extremely well made. I like the art style. I like the story, but I do agree with you that it doesn't follow some of the plot lines that it should. That it starts, it doesn't end up finishing any of those plot points. I'd give it. I think I'd give it a 9, just because
Okay,
it's
all
probably
right.
one of those animes. I don't watch a lot of anime, but I've really enjoyed this one, and I could watch it all the way through without stopping. Enjoyed it that much, and
Mm-hmm.
also I read it. I read the movie. I don't tend to do that with all my
Mm-hmm.
animes, so I tend to watch like the dubbed version and stuff. But I was able to
Mm-hmm.
read through this one, and that gives it some bonus points. So I'd give it a
So
9. It's enjoyable. It's very enjoyable.
it's enjoyable. Yeah. Well, that's good. See, tell like it's good to expose. This is an interesting thing because for you, it's like exposing you to more anime, and for me, it's exposing me to older movies. So it's like I don't know, but see, I don't know. This movie is so slept on. In my opinion, this movie is so slept on. It has like a 7.2 on IMDb, and I'm like, this movie is so good. Like more people need to hear about it. But it's I guess that's just the way that the what's the saying, the way the cookie crumbled or something like that. The
And
way the
that's the way
glass
the cookie
fell. Or
crumbles. Uh,
yeah.
well, I do think there are some problems that, like more marketing issues that they had with it. Like, I really
Hmm.
hate the poster, the movie poster for this movie. I really don't like it.
Which one is that?
Uh,
Is that
are
the
are you on the stream? Because I have it up on the stream.
here? I can
It's
look
the
it
one
up.
where she's like, Tima's in the light, like shining in the light, and then Roke is like right
Shining.
above her. I think it's Roke. I don't think it's Kenichi, but it just I don't like it. I don't think it shows
Is
any of the movie. Like Star Wars tends to show, like you got Luke Skywalker and then you got Princess Leia, and you got all the characters pictured on that, and then you got Darth Vader looking above everyone. So it kind of you
hmm.
see that there's a darker threat above these rebels. This one,
Right.
I don't think the poster looks good. I don't think it really
I think
shows
I
a good
agree
amount of
with
the
you.
story, and I think that's one reason why it might be
I think,
overlooked.
yeah. Maybe it is, but I don't know. See, the thing about a lot of anime is that they gain like a lot of popularity, a lot of traction through underground kind of vessels. You know what I'm saying?
Uh huh.
Like that's how a lot of anime gains popularity. So that certainly could be it, but I don't know. I've watched a couple video essays about why this movie is like really good, and just a lot of people have the same ideas as me about this. But yeah, that the poster, I think it definitely puts an emphasis on Rock for like no reason really.
Yeah, Rock
Like
is
he's in the
not
movie, and I
that big.
guess
I think Kenichi's a bigger character.
no.
I
Yeah,
think it
me
would be
too.
better
Kenichi's
if I had done it. I would have had. I like the picture of Tima there, but I would enjoy having Kenichi like back to back with her in front of the
mhm,
ziggurat. No, yeah,
mhm.
like the background is the ziggurat, and then above them is the leader. Above them is like the who is it? It's
Duke Red.
yeah, Duke Red.
I don't know why I remember his name. I just do. I just have his name remembered. Well, there is an alternative movie poster for Metropolis,
There's a
whereas
couple.
Tima, like, yeah,
Yeah, I have another one on my screen. That I kind of like a little more. I'll show. Let me see if I can show. Uh, Let me go ahead and share my screen real quick.
okay,
So this is the poster This is the poster I enjoy a little more. I like this one a little more because it gets kind of the story
Yeah.
out there. I do not know who that is on the left. Who is that in the with the gun
Um,
on the left with the
Oh,
mustache?
that is that guy, dude. That guy should not be on there. That I'm pretty sure his name is Skunk. I think.
Did he get
I
cut
know who
out?
he is. He's the guy who. No, no, no. He was in the movie. He was the guy that convinced the communist dude to do the uprising. Like he was working with the dictator and the communist guy to sabotage them. That was him.
Huh. Yeah, but he's not in that. He's not in the movie that long at all. Is he the one
No,
that
not
ends
that
up
long at
getting?
all.
Is he the one that ends up getting shot by the people revolting by the humans?
Yeah, yeah. He
Okay.
gets. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He get.
I
That's
think
him.
replace him with the mad scientist
Hmm.
because the mad
Well,
scientist
yeah.
has a
He
bigger,
was also not there that long, but
but
he had a
he's
bigger
bigger
impact.
than. He's the one that creates it and kind of discusses the whole plot point with her.
Hmm.
I stopped that.
I
now.
have this. I have this anime. I actually have a DVD. I have the disc, like the 2 disc thing or whatever. But yeah. Um. I don't know. Do you want to move on to like recommendations?
Yeah, let's move on to recommendations and then we'll announce our next movie. We'll announce next week's movie and then we can go ahead and split ways. I do want to say that I'll be back at I think about 5:36, and then I'll be trying a bunch of snacks. These things called Parm Crisps. I have one bag that I've
Mhm.
opened and I've been testing out. I'll be trying those later with my brother live on Twitch.
Okay.
So
I'll probably come around to check it out later. Um. So let's see. So are you? So are we're doing your movie next, right? Next week.
yeah,
Okay. So I forgot what movie you said it was. I think you might have told me earlier.
I'll remind you at the end when it comes time for that.
Oh, okay.
Uh, you want to go ahead and start with your recommendation?
Yeah. I kind of have a difficult pitch here though for mine. This is a movie. Okay, so whatever. So when I tell you the name of this movie, okay, you cannot look anything up about this movie, okay, because you will be spoiled. Like if you go anywhere near this movie, if you go 2 feet near this movie, you will be spoiled to hell and back. So, it's called Grave of the Fireflies. It's pretty popular. It's one of Roger Ebert's favorite movies too. He likes a lot of Studio Ghibli movies. It's a Studio Ghibli movie. It's not usually considered in their lineup of movies because it's like done under a different. It's done with a different like. It wasn't published by Disney, and it was published in a different time, basically, like in the early days ish of Studio Ghibli. So yeah, it's called Grave of the Fireflies. It's a World War II movie, and I can't tell you anything about it really, um, but I guess I can tell you this. It made me cry. It still makes me cry to this day, and I think it's the saddest movie I've ever seen, probably in my entire life. So this movie made me cry more tears probably than I ever have in my entire life. Each time I've watched it. So that's really all I can tell you. I'll send you a link to where you can watch it because I don't want you to accidentally spoil yourself.
Okay. I think my recommendation for this week is if you really enjoyed the movie we talked about today, Metropolis, I'd recommend 1984. It's another Orwellian type of movie where it's like about society, and I just think it's a really great movie altogether. It's a really good book also. So I definitely enjoy what I do is I'll read the book before I watch any movie. It's what I do with a lot of movies.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how I roll. So I definitely would say
Okay.
read the book before you do the movie, but the movie's just a pretty good synopsis of the film. It skips a little bit of it, but overall it's a really great movie. That's my recommendation for the week. And then
Okay.
Should we talk about what movie we're doing next week?
Sure. Sure
Uh,
thing.
Next week we're gonna be doing a horror movie. Yay! We get to do another horror movie that I chose. But this one's a little. It's a not a French film. It's an American-made film. I think it's an American-made film. Let me check. Not there. It's called Gretel and Hansel. It's by Oz Perkins. Came out in 2020. It's got one of those memorable covers where it's just weird. It's
Mm-hmm.
on the cover is a witch pulling out like a knot from her mouth. It's in like candlelight, but that's what we're gonna be watching next week and discussing that film next. Basically,
And
what
it's
we
called Gretel and Hansel.
it's called Gretel and Hansel. It's not Hansel and Gretel. It's Gretel and Hansel. Uh,
Okay.
but that's I think the one we're gonna talk about next week. Um, I haven't seen it. I just think it'd be an interesting movie to talk about. It's another one of those
All right.
2020 movies that came out during like the pandemic and stuff. So I didn't get a lot of attention.
You really like these.
Some of them are insane. Some of them are thought provoking, but just in general they're just like box office ones that they just released to get some attention, but not to make a lot of money on. And I want to see if any of them are actually any good. Because some of them like just released them just to try to make some money, but overall they just released them to try to get some attention. Same with another movie I want to talk about is the New Mutants, that film.
New Mute.
It's the one. It's the
It's not like a
X-Men.
DC movie.
It's the
Oh, no.
X-Men. It's
No, it's the X-Men movie.
yeah, which came out also
New
at the during the
Okay, I
pandemic and
looked it
stuff.
up.
Uh,
It says horror fantasy. The
which
horror
one? The Gretel and Hansel or the?
The New Mutants. It says it's a new horror fantasy.
Well,
Does it have horror aspects?
yeah. You look up the trailer in your free time, you'll see that it definitely is not like any other X-Men movie. It's a little more horror based. It's Disney released it because they didn't want to release one of their own movies. So when they bought the Fox rights, they released that movie instead. So, because they didn't spend any money on it. But
Well, that's Disney at their finest.
yeah, but that's one movie I'll be doing. I'm gonna probably pick soon. I'm just gonna try to knock out a bunch of 2021s because I think some of them may be like really good, but they just came out at a bad time. Like Unhinged was okay, the acting was good, but the story is a little bonkers. I did recommend that movie to someone. I recommended it to my cousin, and I gave him a copy of the Blu-ray. So
What did they think?
I don't know yet. I'm waiting. I'll probably
Oh, God.
I'll probably tell you next week. But
I loved that movie so much. I loved it. Like I hated it. I loved it because I hated it.
yeah,
know?
it's definitely one of those movies. I could definitely watch it again though. I think would you
I would
watch
watch
it
it
again?
again. No, I would agree. I would watch it again.
One
I
of
wouldn't
those
like it like unironically. But ironically, I think that Hinged is like a masterpiece.
yeah,
I think at least.
I think it's a pretty good movie. I think that it could have got a little more attention than it did because I think it's a pretty good movie. It's one of those sleepers that I don't think got a lot of attention. I don't know how much attention it got, but this Gretel and Hansel for some reason has 3 stars on Vudu, which is 3 out of 5.
It has. I looked it
And
up.
then 64% Rotten Tomatoes, which is very. It's got a high Rotten Tomatoes rating, but then it's got a really low Voodoo rating. So let's see
Wait.
which one's
You
closer.
said 60% is high on Rotten Tomatoes?
That's pretty high on Rotten Tomatoes.
Nah, no way.
Yes, it is.
I thought. See, Rotten Tomatoes is such bullshit.
Anything
That's such a
above a
bullshit
45% on Rotten Tomatoes is considered a good movie to the Rotten Tomato community.
That's so fucking dumb. Okay, I'm just sorry. I have a personal. I do not like Rotten Tomatoes. I really don't. I think that like
What's one of your favorite movies?
I don't know.
What's one of your all-time favorite movies? Let's see what Rotten Tomatoes gives it.
Fuck. Let's go with.
Go with a Studio
Blade
Ghibli
Runner.
ones, or let's go with.
Oh,
Like
if
a
it's Studio Ghibli, it's gonna be 100%.
Well, let's
It's
see.
gonna be 100% across the board. Okay. Do The Wind Rises.
2013 film.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. 88% Rotten Tomatoes. That's a pretty good one. You said Blade Runner was the other one. They might. These might
do
be
Blade
pretty-
Runner.
Not 2049. We don't want that
Look
one.
up.
Sounds pretty
No,
bad.
we don't want that one.
Blade Runner, 90%. So actually, some of these are getting pretty good. But I think a 60% is an okay rating for Rotten Tomatoes. Some of them can be pretty bad.
Look up Grave of the Fireflies on Rotten Tomatoes. Don't look up anything. I know I told you just not to, but
I'll look up specifically Rotten Tomatoes. Grave of the Fireflies, Rotten Tomatoes. Okay. I think I'm okay with opening this one. What?
what?
I'm confused. Okay, it wasn't loading.
On Google.
What the? It's got 100%.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay.
I think that's all the
I
anime
respect
people.
them for that one.
Let's see.
No, this movie's been popular for a long time.
See what
Roger Ebert, I'm pretty sure,
1984
gave it like a 5.
1984 gets a 74%.
Well, I mean, I would consider that to be pretty good. See, I don't like Rotten Tomatoes ratings. I really don't.
I think they're all over the place.
I think they're inflated.
Yeah, see,
Yeah, they're
Blade
all over
Runner
the place, and
2049.
they're really inflated.
Blade Runner 2049 got an 88%, so it's like 2% below the original Blade Runner, and I don't think it's that good.
Right, and it's like, bruh. Yeah, it's like it's not that good. I don't know.
Probably.
I usually just I think IMDb is more accurate in my opinion.
IMDb got an 8 out of 10 for that one. Let's go original Blade Runner. Let's see what it gives this one. An 8.1 out of 10.
God damn.
You said it was more trustworthy. But I think
I trust it more, but I
honestly,
also don't really like.
I still believe the only person that you're the reviewer of the films. You should be the critic. Because
Right.
films talk to
Yeah.
certain people. So
Yeah.
we might like this. We might like some of these films, and you might not. The audience might not like it. You guys might not like it.
Yeah.
It just depends.
I
Films
think
are
general consensus. I think general consensus matters to some extent, but not to your personal enjoyment, right? So it's
Yeah.
like, if everyone says this movie is good, then it's probably for a reason. Like, there's probably a reason why people love this movie so much, right?
whether
But
it's
also
the
at
music,
same
the
time,
directing.
it doesn't mean you don't.
Yeah,
Yeah. and
Some
that doesn't
people
mean you
like
have
it just
to
because
like
of
it.
music.
Yeah. Which is understandable. Grave of the Fireflies, I don't know how it has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. I do not think it's literally perfect. It's not even my favorite Studio Ghibli movie by a long shot. But, I mean, it is a great fucking movie, but and I would consider it one of the best. But I would not consider it like a total masterpiece.
I don't know what movies
But
that I would consider a masterpiece, because I always think there's something better you can do in any film. So
I don't think a masterpiece has to be perfect. I really don't. I think something can be a masterpiece and still have flaws because the things that it does well, like if you have something that does what it does so well that it just defies all of its negatives, then I feel like that makes it a masterpiece, in my opinion.
hey,
So
you said
that's just
Grave
not,
of the
like-
Fireflies
go
is is like a masterpiece, and I've been thinking, what would I consider a masterpiece? And I think the film Pan's
well, I said I
Labyrinth.
wouldn't really consider it a masterpiece.
You wouldn't?
Pan's Labyrinth. I need to watch
Pan's
that.
Labyrinth.
No,
We
I
might do
wouldn't
that
consider
one
it a
week.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm gonna watch. I've been meaning to watch that one, but no, I would. I mean, in some ways, I would consider Grave of the Fireflies to be a masterpiece, but in other ways, I wouldn't. It's really hard to explain. It's like, okay, let me explain it to you like this. Just when you watch this movie, just just prepare, just prepare to die. Just prepare to die. Like,
I don't want to.
prepare to never want to watch this movie again. No, once you watch this movie, like, you will never want to watch it again, if that makes sense. It's a fantastic movie. It is a beautiful movie that you will never want to watch again in your life. That's Grave of the Fireflies. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. Checking to see how much it is to rent on Voodoo. $2.99. That's not bad. I might rent it. Yeah, it's got
Matt, can you hear me?
100%. Yeah, yeah. It's got 100%
You
Rotten
can hear me?
Tomatoes.
I can't hear you. Hold on.
Can you not?
Something goofy's going on.
Let's see if my... No? Stream can still hear me.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, but I can hear myself now.
Okay, wait. I'm gonna try to fix this. All right. So, what about now?
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
I can hear you.
I could always hear you. Why would you ask?
Oh, okay. I didn't hear you.
Yeah.
But anyway, so did you hear what I said about it being a movie that you'll love? Like, it's very good, but you'll never want to watch it again?
Yeah.
Okay, that's basically it. That's basically all I can tell you. And wait, so which one should I watch next week?
Gretel and Hansel. I can if you
Okay.
text me,
Got it.
I'll just send you the name if you forget it.
Alright.
I just want to stick to one movie this week because two movies this week was pretty tough on me. But I'm hoping.
All right.
But I don't know why. Usually I tend to watch movies while I do homework and stuff, but this week the work that I got from Spanish is just so hard to focus on with like a movie going. So,
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be able to do that at all. Like, I can't watch movies and do other things. I'm really bad. If I want to focus on something, I'm really bad at multitasking. If I want, I can't watch movies and do other things because I feel like I'm missing things if I do, and I don't like that feeling.
well, that's
So
I never watch a new movie. I never watch a new movie while doing homework. Because I know that I'm going to focus more on the movie than I will the homework. Now, if I'm writing an essay, I'll do that
okay.
because it doesn't take a lot of focus for me to write an essay. I just pump that shit out, honestly. It's really easy for me to do that.
I feel you.
But when it comes to other types of works, like if I'm doing math and stuff, I can't watch a new movie. I'll just have it I can listen to it in the background is what I'll do. But with all these online courses, I struggle with any of that stuff. So, because it's all work.
Do online courses kind of suck? Because I got registered for some, and they're just not. I don't know.
Are you doing them over the summer?
I had some bad experience. It's starting next month. So.
Oh, are they
yeah, I guess
8-week
so, yeah.
courses? Are you taking 8-week courses?
Yeah.
Oof, that's gonna be hard. It's just a lot of work. How many classes are you taking?
3. I think.
Are they lecture?
Yeah,
Are they half lecture, half online? Which,
No,
like Zoom calls?
One is with the Zoom call. Only one. Then I have 2 of them that are completely online.
Are they, like, what type of classes? Physics? Like English? What types?
I have art history. I have some fucking science class. It's not chemistry. And I have I genuinely forgot I fucking forgot the other one. I forgot what the other one is.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I
Hopefully it's
cannot take
outside.
any science classes online. I can take biology online probably, but I was taking last semester for fall. I was taking physics online.
Mm-hmm.
Do not do that, because literally you
Did it
buy.
not work out?
No, first of all, the test and stuff. It was impossible for me to get a private test, like a monitored test, because it was really hard for me to get that, because no one would talk to me back. I would call the school. I would email them over and over again. And it's nothing, just dead silence.
Mm-hmm.
And then also for physics, you got to go to the store pretty often and buy materials all the time. So I would have
Mm-hmm.
had to buy I would have had to buy yardsticks, baseballs, uh, rulers, tons of different stuff, and I do not need to buy stuff that I'm never going to use again, because I'm never
Mm-hmm.
going to use a baseball after that probably, and now it's just it's just a lot of money, and then you're also spending money on top of that that the school gets to keep. It's just a whole big problem I had with it. And my mom could see that I was getting
Mm-hmm.
super stressed out about it and I was not liking it, so I went ahead and she just said, "Okay, you can go ahead and quit. You don't have to do that." And she could understand
Mm-hmm.
that that was a big pain in my ass, so
So did you pass? So you didn't pass it, right?
no,
So
I
you,
just
you just.
dropped it. I gave
Mm-hmm.
up on that class.
Wow.
Now when we're allowed to
You're.
go back to campus, or if we're allowed to go back to campus, I'll go ahead and take it gladly. Or if they have one that's like a
Mm-hmm.
half lecture online and half in class. But yeah,
Huh. Well, some classes, I don't know. I have some classes later on in the year that are supposed to be on campus, but they're not. Or I don't know if they are or not. I don't know if they're gonna
we'll
see because
see.
I'm technically enrolled at Indianapolis. Yeah, I really don't think so though. I really don't think it'll be
I
cleared up
don't
by that
think.
time.
I
Like I
think
honestly don't.
the only maybe at the end of next fall, or late
Mm-hmm.
summer, or early fall. Sometime then, I think we might be allowed to go back to campus. But since it's a community college, there's a lot of older people. That's gonna that's gonna be the biggest worry, because that's pretty much the one
Mm-hmm.
thing. But hey, let's go ahead and end it here, I think, because we're done talking about the films
Okay.
and stuff. So
We're not talking about movies. We're just talking
yeah,
about
life in
other shit.
general.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and say bye, Ty.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.